The streets of Manila have long been filled with sounds of jeepneys, chatter, and the daily hustle of life. But in one corner of the city, a young boy's voice used to rise above the noise, clear, emotional, and full of dreams far bigger than his surroundings. With nothing but an old guitar and his unshakable determination, he would sing on sidewalks, hoping that passers-by would notice him. Some gave him coins, some gave him smiles, but deep inside, he held on to a bigger hope. One day, the world would hear him. That dream took flight when he stepped onto the stage of America's Got Talent. The same boy who once sang under the heat of the Manila sun now stood under the bright AGT lights, facing judges like Simon Cowell, Howie Mandel, Heidi Klum, and Sofía Vergara. Nervous but fearless, he introduced himself, his voice trembling with both humility and pride. The audience leaned in, unsure of what to expect from the small boy in worn shoes and a shy smile. Then, the music began. From the very first note, silence fell across the theater. His voice was raw yet powerful, carrying the weight of every struggle he had endured. Every lyric told a story, not just of a young boy singing a song, but of a life marked by resilience, courage, and unshakable faith. By the chorus, the audience was on its feet, clapping along, cheering louder with each note. Tears streamed down the faces of the judges, who couldn't believe how such a young child could hold such depth in his voice. As the final note echoed through the hall, the crowd erupted into a standing ovation. Simon Cowell leaned forward, his eyes glistening, and pressed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti rained down, and the boy fell to his knees, overwhelmed by the moment. For the first time, the world truly saw him, not as a boy from the streets, but as a star. This episode captured more than just a performance. It told the story of a dreamer who refused to give up, a child who transformed hardship into inspiration, and a voice that proved talent can rise from anywhere. From sidewalk songs to stardom, his journey reminded everyone watching that no dream is too far, and no voice is too small, to change the world. The bright lights of America's Got Talent have witnessed countless acts, but few moments have ever touched the heart as deeply as when a young Filipino street performer took the stage. For years, he had been singing on the streets of Manila, his voice carrying through busy markets, under bridges, and across crowded plazas. Music was not just his passion, it was his survival. With each note, he hoped to earn enough for food, sometimes singing until his throat ached. Yet, even in those struggles, his dream never dimmed, to share his gift with the world. When he walked onto the AGT stage, there was a hush of curiosity. He stood small but determined, holding a microphone as though it were his lifeline. The judges asked about his story, and with honesty, he revealed that he once performed on the streets to support himself. The audience listened intently, moved even before the first note was sung. Then, the music started. His voice poured out with haunting beauty, soft yet commanding, fragile yet unbreakable. The judges leaned in, caught off guard by the sheer emotion in his singing. Every lyric was more than just a performance, it was a reflection of his pain, hope, and perseverance. Within moments, tears glistened in the eyes of the audience. Some covered their mouths in shock, others whispered, "Wow," as chills ran through the theater. Halfway through, Simon Cowell's expression changed, no longer just evaluating, but visibly moved. Heidi Klum wiped her eyes. Sofía Vergara clasped her hands to her chest. By the time he hit the final soaring note, the crowd rose to its feet in thunderous applause. The young boy stood frozen, tears in his own eyes, overwhelmed by the love and recognition he had long dreamed of. Then came the unforgettable moment. Simon looked at him, paused, and with a smile said, This is why we do this show." He slammed the golden buzzer, and golden confetti rained down, shimmering like dreams turned into reality. The boy dropped to his knees, overcome with emotion as the audience chanted his name. This episode was more than an audition, it was a life-changing story unfolding in real time. A boy who once sang for coins on the streets of Manila had now touched millions, proving that talent knows no boundaries and that true artistry comes from the soul. His voice not only brought tears to the judges but also inspired the world, showing that hope can rise from even the humblest beginnings. In the bustling heart of Manila, where life is fast and survival is tough, a young boy once stood on sidewalks, clutching an old guitar with missing strings. The streets were his stage, the passers-by his audience, and the coins tossed into his small box were his only reward. Every song he sang carried pieces of his story, nights of hunger, days of hardship, and an unshakable belief that music was his way forward. Though the world often walked by without noticing, the boy kept singing, whispering to himself that one day, the spotlight would find him. That spotlight finally arrived when he auditioned for America's Got Talent. Dressed in simple clothes, his shoes worn from countless days of walking the streets, he walked onto the grand stage with a mix of nerves and determination. The judges, Simon Cowell, Sofía Vergara, Heidi Klum, and Howie Mandel, looked on with curiosity. The audience waited, many wondering how this young street performer would measure up in such a massive competition. As the music began, his voice cut through the silence with raw intensity. He sang not like a contestant chasing fame, but like a soul crying out to be heard. Each note reflected his struggles, each lyric a reminder of where he came from. The theater grew still, captivated by the purity and strength of his performance. The crowd leaned forward, as if every person wanted to hold on to his voice, afraid to miss even a single note. By the middle of the song, emotions overflowed. Sofia's eyes filled with tears, Heidi pressed her hands together, and Simon's face softened, a rare sight. The audience was no longer just watching a performance, they were witnessing a triumph of the human spirit. As the final note echoed, the room erupted into cheers and a standing ovation. The boy, overwhelmed, lowered his head in disbelief as tears streamed down his face. Then came the moment he had never dared to imagine. Simon Cowell stood up, smiled warmly, and pressed the golden buzzer. Confetti rained down, turning the stage into a golden dream. The young boy dropped to his knees, covering his face as emotions poured out. From the struggles of Manila's streets to the dazzling lights of AGT, his journey had finally brought him the recognition he deserved. This episode was more than entertainment, it was a celebration of resilience. It showed millions that no matter where you begin, with courage, faith, and talent, the spotlight will eventually find you. The AGT stage has seen singers from across the world, but rarely does a performance arrive that leaves the entire audience speechless. That moment came when a young Filipino boy, once known for singing barefoot on the streets of Manila, stepped into the spotlight. Nervous but holding his microphone tightly, he stood before the judges, his eyes filled with both fear and hope. Simon Cowell leaned forward, his signature skeptical look across his face. Heidi Klum and Sofía Vergara smiled warmly, encouraging the young contestant to take a deep breath. The boy introduced himself softly, sharing how he grew up singing on the streets, performing for strangers to earn enough for food and survive another day. The audience fell silent, struck by the honesty in his story. Then, the music began. From the first note, the boy's voice stunned everyone. It was powerful yet tender, filled with emotion so raw that the theater froze. His tone was pure, each word cutting deep into the hearts of everyone listening. It wasn't just a song, it was a story told through music, a voice of gold shaped by hardship and hope. The judges' expressions changed instantly. Simon's raised eyebrow softened, Heidi's eyes glistened, and Sofía placed a hand over her chest, visibly moved. As the performance built, the audience erupted in cheers, unable to contain their emotions. Strangers held hands, tears flowed freely, and every single person in the room knew they were witnessing something extraordinary. By the final note, the entire theater was on its feet, applauding, cheering, and shouting his name. The boy, overcome with emotion, bowed his head, tears streaming down his cheeks as he realized he had finally been heard, not as a street performer, but as a true artist. Then came the life-changing moment. Simon Cowell, known for his tough critiques, looked directly at the boy and said, "You have a voice that is pure gold. The world needs to hear this." Without hesitation, he pressed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti burst through the air, showering the stage like a dream come true. The boy fell to his knees, crying tears of joy as the audience roared with approval. This wasn't just an audition, it was history being made. A child from the streets of Manila had shocked America's Got Talent with a voice unlike any other. His journey was proof that greatness can rise from the humblest beginnings, and that true talent shines brightest when the world least expects it. The story began in the crowded streets of Manila, where life was a daily struggle for a young boy with a gift too powerful to ignore. With worn-out clothes and a voice that could silence even the noisiest corners of the city, he sang for survival. Coins dropped into his small box gave him enough for a meal, but what kept him going wasn't just hunger, it was the dream of one day standing on a real stage, with real lights, and sharing his voice with the world. That dream led him thousands of miles away, to the grand stage of America's Got Talent. As he stepped out in front of the judges in a massive live audience, his hands trembled, but his spirit didn't waver. Simon Cowell, always quick to measure talent, gave him a sharp look. Heidi Klum and Sofía Vergara smiled encouragingly, while Howie Mandel leaned forward, curious about what was to come. The boy introduced himself, explaining how he once sang on Manila's streets to survive. The audience listened closely, touched by the simplicity and sincerity of his words. Then the music started. What happened next was nothing short of magical. His voice rose with breathtaking power, strong, golden, and filled with emotions born from hardship. Each note carried years of struggle, hope, and courage. The audience was captivated, some wiping tears from their eyes, others recording the moment as if to never forget it. The boy sang not like someone chasing fame, but like someone whose very life depended on every word. The judges' reactions said it all. Sofía covered her mouth in shock, Heidi's eyes brimmed with tears, and even Simon, known for his tough critiques, sat in silence, visibly moved. When the boy hit his final soaring note, the audience leapt to its feet in a thunderous standing ovation. The boy lowered his microphone, breathing heavily, his eyes wet with tears, overwhelmed by the response. Then Simon spoke. "You came here from nothing, but you just gave us everything. This is why this show exists." He reached out and slammed the golden buzzer. Instantly, golden confetti filled the air, raining down like a dream turned real. The boy fell to his knees, overcome with emotion, his hands covering his face as tears streamed down. From poverty to power, this moment was the turning point of his life. He was no longer just a boy from Manila's streets, he was a star the world had discovered. His golden buzzer wasn't just an achievement, it was proof that dreams, no matter how impossible they seem, can come true.